Today we're making dandelions. I'm using a black Sharpie, a white oil pastel, green and blue liquid watercolor, and a little bit of water. And I'm also going to need a nice size brush. Okay, so I'm going to start with my Sharpie, and we're going to make the stems of our flowers. So one is taller than the other. So this one, I'm going to start with a circle about here. I'm going to color it in. It's really not a circle, it's more of an oval. Okay, and then I'm going to make my stem, and it's not going to go straight up and down. It's going to be more on a curve. So we'll do that. And for some of you, it might be easier to make dashes before you make your line. I know that it could be a little bit scary to make a line all in one shot, so you can always do it this way first, and then you can just take your marker and connect it. And then we're going to want this to be a little thicker, so I'm going to go back over it again to make it thicker. I want it to be about that wide. I'm going to make it a little wider as it comes down towards the bottom. See how it's a little thinner up here? Okay, so this is my first dandelion flower. That's the start of it. Now, this oval, I'm going to make it jagged now. I'm just making these little pointy, almost like zigzags in there. And then if you've ever seen the dandelion flower, there's some that just kind of hang down. So I'm going to do that too. So from here, I'm just going to go down like this, back up. Like that. And I'll do a couple on this side too. Like that. Okay. And now we get to make all different size lines that come out of this. Okay, so I'll show you. Some are going to be short, some are going to be long. Like that. I'm going to do this all the way around, okay? So it's going to still have like a circle shape to it. Do you see how they're coming out? Okay. Now, at the end of each line, I'm going to make it look like the letter V. like that. And then we're going to make a shorter one. My shorter one is going to be right about here. So we'll start with that oval shape again and then fill it in. And then I'll make my line. This one isn't as curvy. I used the dashes again to make it easier, but you can feel free to just make your line. You don't have to do the dashes. Then I'm going to connect it and then make it a little bit wider. Okay, and again, just like we did on this one, first we'll do the little bumpy lines, little jagged lines like this. And then I'm going to make those other lines that come down. They're longer like that. Like that. And this one isn't as big, the little lines that come out, so just keep that in mind. And I'm going to make some lines. Like that. And then just like we did over here, we're going to put those little V's at the top. Oops, those weren't supposed to have V's. So I'm just going to color over it. I got a little carried away with my V's here. Yeah, no V's down here. Okay, so now we're going to make some of these little flyaways. Okay, so to do that, they're going to be, I'm going to start with a big one, and that one's going to go like this. And then at the bottom of it, it's just a little bit thicker. Okay, and then from there, I'm going to make the V, but I'm also going to make a few others like this, like that. Okay, so that's my first one. And we want there to feel like movement, so I don't want them all to be going in the same direction. My next one is going to be a little bit smaller, more almost up and down. The same little thicker part at the bottom. And we're going to do our V and a few others like that. Okay. Then another one that's about the same size as this one. It's going to go that way with that little thick part at the bottom. Then our V with a few others like that. I'm going to make a tiny one that looks like it's in the distance there. It's just a little smaller. Like that. I don't want too many of these to overpower the picture. So after a couple of more, I'll be done with that. Maybe we'll have one going like it's actually falling down, going in the other direction. We'll go this way. See what I mean? Like that. And let's put a couple little more tiny ones up here. With my art, when I look at it, sometimes I get that feeling when I know that it's balanced and has enough. And now I have that feeling. It feels balanced to me, that there's enough of these kind of floating down. I don't think it's overpowering. And I think we are ready for the next step. So I want you to take a look at yours, see if there's any more that you need to add in here so that it's pleasing to your eye. See if you're happy with your little flyaways. And then if you are, put your cap on your marker real tight. And we are going to use our white oil pastel for the next step. Okay? Just was wiping it off for a second to make sure that there was nothing on it. Okay, so I'm using the white because when we paint with the watercolor, anything we color white, the watercolor won't stay on the paper. It'll just kind of go away from it. So you'll see that it's really cool. And since these flowers are normally white, I'm going to color in the spaces in between. Okay, so I'm just gonna, and I want it to be, I know you can't see it, but I'm going up and down like little zigzags, okay, in between these lines. Little zigzags up and down. You don't want it to look like a perfect round circle. I'm just zigzag, and I'm going to be careful not to really color too much on the black. I'm trying to go in between. Okay. And then if you want to see it, because I know it's hard to see, but while you're coloring, if you look from a side angle, you can see what you've done. So if you just kind of change the angle that you're looking, you can kind of see that white glare. I don't think you'd be able to see it on my paper, but in person you can. Okay, so I did a little bit of white, zigzagged around this one. I'm going to do the same thing here. And this one's bigger. Going in between here. Trust me, this is going to look really cool once we get the watercolors in here. And I'm just going to look at it from an angle so that I could see if I'm happy with where I place that. Okay, and then we can do the same thing on these, just a few little white zigzags. I'm just going like up and down above all of those, okay? All right, now is where the magic happens. So for the sky, I'm gonna wet my paper first. So we're gonna just dip our brush in the water on both sides. I don't know why my water just turned orange. Let's try that again. I'm gonna pour more water in here. There. Apparently that brush wasn't cleaned very well. Okay, so I'm dipping my brush in the water. And I'm gonna wet my paper. Okay. Just want to get some water on the sky so that my sky color isn't too dark. Because with the liquid watercolors, you can use it without diluting it. And what I'm doing, it's going to dilute it a little bit. So you see, I'm just taking this water and going right over the marker. Because with Sharpie, it really shouldn't move on you. I'm going to stop about here, okay? So a little bit lower than halfway with my water. Okay. Okay, so now we got water on it. And then, oh, I hope I get the right color here. They're hard to see. Put a little bit more water on my brush, and then I'm going to dip it in the blue. Yep, that's blue. Okay, and so I'm just going to first let some blue off my brush by dabbing it, okay? Then I'm going to spread it out. Okay, spread that out. Ooh, you see what's happening? Do you see that? Okay, so I've spread it out, and now I'm going to add more blue with no water on my brush because I want different variations of this sky color, okay? So I want it to be darker in some places and lighter in others. Because that's the way the sky looks when you take a look at the sky. It's not the same color everywhere. Okay. I'm just overlapping in places that I want it to be darker. That's cool, right? See what's happening? All the white we added is now coming through. Okay, so this is my sky. Like I said, we went a little bit lower than halfway. There we go. And you could see that I have some darker places, some lighter places in my sky. Painted right on top of the flowers. All right, and now I'm just gonna give my brush a quick wipe. And It's okay when we dip it in if it turns a little blue. We're going to dip my brush in the water again. Okay, and we're just going to wet this. Like I said, it's okay if there's a little blue in it. We're going to put green on top. It'll be like a blue-green. So I'm just wetting my paper. Nice and wet. Oopsie. And then we're going to dip it in the green, okay? Right through here. I'm just going to spread this out. Put a little water in there. And the water just makes it look a little lighter in some places, darker in others. Okay. All right, now I'm going to wipe my brush off. I want it more dry. I'm going to put that green on my brush. Because remember I said that if you use without diluting it, it's darker, right? So I'm trying to get just the green on it. And I'm going to hold my brush this way. Let's see if I can show you. To make longer brush strokes. And I'm going to start making grass. Like that. So I'm just going up and down. From the bottom, and then you just pull up. You can go in different directions. Okay. They can overlap each other. Like that. And then just to give it a little bit more definition, I'm going to put the green and blue on my brush to get like a blue-green. And I'm going to just put a few more through here. So it's green and blue. And just pull up. Start at the bottom and pull up. It ran out, so green, blue. Just put some a little bit higher. Remember, it's okay to go through this flower because it won't get covered. The oil pastel will not receive that paint. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to do a little bit more with just the blue down here. Just blue. This is just straight blue now. So we have like 3 colors, 3 different shades going on. Okay. Wipe my brush off. I have a little bit of paint that's pooled down here. So I'm just taking my dry brush and spreading it out. Okay, so here is our finished dandelion. It might curl a little, the paper, and if it does, once it's dry, you can just flip it over and put a book on it, and then it'll stay flat. And you could also frame this picture. So I hope you had fun today. Looks like I've slipped a little bit. I hope you had fun today, and keep on making art.